This is our first Sunday of October. We're going to be discussing Howard Phillips Lovecraft, or H.P. Lovecraft. And I'd like to thank the Blueberry Patch for providing us with a great venue, and of course our readers today, who you will meet later on. Anyways, I'm going to read from A Brief English Grammar by Pearl S. Buck. It is sometimes said that grammar is a collection of rules for correct speaking and writing, but this is not strictly true. The rules of grammar are like the laws of physical science, such as chemistry, physics, astronomy, or physical geography. These sciences are not a collection of rules telling the winds and tides, for instance, what they must do, or prescribe how a certain acid or a certain base shall unite. They only report and explain what happens. And so grammar doesn't say to us directly, you must speak thus and so, for the following reasons. Knowing this fact, we shall undoubtedly choose to speak in order to easily and precisely be understood by others, or to avoid appearances of eccentricities or arrogance or ignorance. But grammar does go no further than to report and explain the usages of language, leaving us to choose for ourselves whether we shall follow them or not. And H.P. Lovecraft was a person who did follow the rules of grammar. So, today we're talking about H.P. Lovecraft. He was born Howard Phillips Lovecraft, August 20th of 1890 in Providence, Rhode Island. Actually, was born in the house at 456 Angel Street, which is right now one of the most prominent houses in the city of Providence. They, just kind of an aside, they demolished the original structure in 1961, but saved the innards of the house and brought it up to 5051 Angel. The building that sits there now is, of course, the Rockefeller Library at Brown University. Winfield Scott Lovecraft and Sarah Susan Phillips Lovecraft. Lillian was his grandmother. Winfield Scott died in 1890. Give a little background to where Howard Phillips came from. His father died at Butler Hospital in the sanitarium there of a mental break or a psychotic break. And Howard was 3 years old. And essentially from the age of 1 to 3, he had spent at Butler Hospital. Just a little aside, his mother's side were butlers. They were the ones who gave the land to the hospital, hence the name Butler. So Providence natives always say that the Lovecrafts had been insane since their origin. So, anyways, he was very intellectually precocious. He was extraordinarily sensitive. I would say by the age of 7 or 8, he had already written a handful of rudimentary horror short stories. He also gained an incredible amount of anxiety during this period of time, being at the age of 8. And he stated his greatest flaw was his inability to do mathematics, simple mathematics. So, at the age of 8, he essentially wrote his first novel, called The Noble Eavesdropper. They know it exists. The family knows it exists, but there's been no concrete evidence of where it is as a novel, which is very interesting. That his very first novel, at the age of 8, is non-existent. But everybody knows that it exists because it's spoken. That same year, he wrote The Little Glass Bottle, again at the age of 8. And then The Secret Cave, or John Lee's Adventure, which is an odd makeup of the goings-on of the American abolitionist movement and the making of I guess you could say, an underground horror story all at the same time, which I thought was very weird. And again, The Haunted House, which was originally written in 1898 and went into and then was actually published in 1902. But the original manuscript does not exist. So the original printed publication does, but the original manuscript is gone. And I'll explain to you why some of the stuff is missing. Anyways, at the age of 13, well, let me go back. After his bout of anxiety, during the point of when his mother was losing her mind as well, he was still doing a lot of plays and projects for the school. It was at Hope High School. At the time, was the premier public school in the United States. And he produced most of the plays that were acted during the first 3 seasons there. And then all of a sudden, at the age of 13, he stopped writing. He stopped writing, he stopped acting, he stopped directing, he stopped publication, he stopped everything. And later on, his reasoning was, what he explained was that that he believed that no one was understanding where he was coming from, and he believed that he was better than the institutions that were there. And very shortly thereafter, quit school, never to return. So we're talking about a young man at the age of 14 making this decision. In 98, which is just before all of this, he writes The Secret of the Grave, John the Detective, and The Mysterious Ship, all written in the same year. Mysterious Ship was published in 1902. Anyways, he was supposed to graduate in the year in 1908 from Hope High. In 1998, he was given an honorary degree, an honorary certificate of graduation from Hope High School, just to tie things together into the modern world. So I'm going to leave you at that and come back and talk about his adulthood. And Martha? Or Rob? Okay, Martha? Martha's next.